Most people think a man who can fix anything is just naturally handy. But look closer at Gen X men, the ones who never seem rattled by a leaking pipe or a stalled engine, and you'll notice something else. No panique. Not because nothing goes wrong, and not because they always know the answer, but because somewhere back in the 1970s or 80s, they learned that broken things can be touched. And that single fact changed the way they move through the world. Certain people freeze the moment a mechanical or situational failure strikes. The check engine light comes on. The Wi-Fi router blinks red. An argument starts spinning out of control. And almost instantly, something inside them shuts down. Then there's the other kind of man. The one who walks over, stands there for a second, and just starts doing something. He doesn't always know how it'll end. But he acts like a solution exists. And from the outside it looks almost like a superpower because while everyone else feels dread, he feels curious. Curiously, it is rarely the smartest guy in the room. Not the one with the most degrees. Not even the one with the most experience. So what does he actually have? Psychologist Albert Bandura called it self-efficacy back in the late 1970s. Not blind optimism, but a quiet, internal fact. I've solved things before, I can probably solve this too. And that belief rewires how a person handles chaos. When your brain believes it can influence the outcome, it doesn't slide into defeat so fast. It holds on longer, tolerates frustration better, and thinks more clearly under pressure. And the longer you stay with a problem, the more likely you are to crack it. Decades before ever picking up a wrench as an adult, many Gen X men started small. A bike chain, a broken record player, a TV antenna that needed adjusting just right. Armed with only a tool and a ticking clock before dinner, that small Saturday afternoon moment proved psychologically enormous. The brain logged something permanent. I can act on the world and something changes. Bandura called these mastery experiences. Small moments where you do something and watch it actually work. Not someone telling you you're capable, but proving it to yourself. There's a massive difference between being told and finding out. This connects to another idea studied by psychologist Julian Rotter. Locus of control. It measures something simple. Do you believe outcomes depend on your actions? Or do you believe things just happen to you? Men with an internal locus of control believe they can move things, not control everything, but move something. And they tend to handle stress better, recover faster from failure, and are less likely to sink into prolonged low moods. Because once you believe nothing depends on you, the world starts to feel impossible to touch. And this is where two very different childhoods lead to the exact same place. Some Gen X men learned this beside a father or grandfather who handed them a screwdriver and let them fail safely, who didn't fix it for them, who taught them to think it through. Others learned the same lesson from the opposite direction, because nobody was around to teach them anything, and the only way to survive Saturday afternoon was to figure it out alone. Two completely different roads, arriving at the same competence. Few people speak openly about the psychological weight carried by the man who fixes everything. From the outside, he looks unshakable. But underneath, he often doesn't feel safe at all. He simply learned to sit inside, I don't know yet, without falling apart. Most people need certainty fast. They need guarantees, control, a clear ending, and when they don't get it, anxiety moves in. But the man who knows how to fix things has usually made peace with the uncomfortable middle. He can stay in that space longer without collapsing. And that skill is genuinely rare, because fixing something almost always means spending time not fully understanding what's wrong. Most people read that feeling as danger. He reads it as a process, a puzzle. Consider a simpler reality. Some of these men did not learn calm from safety. They learned it from survival. There's a specific kind of boy who became the responsible one too early, the one who kept the household running when a parent couldn't, the one who learned that falling apart wasn't an option, that crying wasn't going to fix the electric bill. Over time, his brain quietly turned usefulness into identity. If I fix things, I have value. That's why some of these men can't sit still when something's broken. It's not just about helping. An unsolved problem activates something in them they'd rather not look at directly. Yet another archetype exists entirely, and he might be the most interesting of the three. He fixes things because he genuinely loves understanding them. He wants to know how something works, how it broke, what part failed, and why. And when he finally fixes it, he doesn't feel relief. He feels fascination. He's the guy who takes apart something that already works, just to see it up close. Who asks questions nobody else thought to ask. Who explains the wiring diagram with way more enthusiasm than the moment requires. Because for him, understanding is the fun part, not the finish line. And spending time around a man like that changes something in you, quietly. Not knowing how to do something doesn't mean you never will. It just means you don't understand it yet. Introspection naturally invites you to sort yourself into one of these categories right now. Maybe you're the man who fixes everything, and you've never really asked yourself where that came from. Or maybe you're the one who always has to call someone, and it makes you feel like you're missing something other men just have. Here's what's worth remembering. Needing to call someone else isn't usually a lack of ability. It's usually a story. A stack of small moments where you learned that problems were too big, too complicated, or too dangerous to face alone. And that story isn't permanent, because self-efficacy doesn't arrive all at once. It's built in small deposits, tightening a loose screw, making the phone call you've been avoiding, staying with a problem for 5 more minutes instead of walking away from it. That's where it actually starts. Every small moment where you try something and it works changes, just slightly, the way your brain sees itself. Do that enough times and it stops being a skill. It becomes an identity. You stop waiting to be rescued. You start becoming someone who tries, who adjusts, who stays in the room a little longer. And maybe that's really what separates the men who seem able to fix anything from the ones who freeze. Not that they're less afraid. They just learned, somewhere along the way, that being afraid was never a good enough reason to stop. Because almost everything that looks unfixable today was, at some point, just something nobody had figured out yet. And maybe the real difference between the man who walks away from a problem and the one who solves it is simple. One of them sees a problem. The other sees the beginning of something he can still understand.